Welcome to another episode of the Sparkles of Gold Astrology Manifesto podcast. My name is Nicolas Polimanakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. It's another episode of 3 Questions with an Astrologer. And tonight I am with
KristaLyn Vetovich.
And I can't remember, KristaLyn, do you have another handle or...
I am the real KristaLyn.
That's right.
Yes.
There
are no doubles, no imposters anymore. Got rid of those.
Yeah. That's a thing.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And you know, for those who listen to this and know, KristaLyn doesn't know the 3 questions.
Nope.
Yep. And I like to keep my astrologers on edge. So let's start with the first question.
Sounds great.
KristaLyn, what's your favorite astrological technique?
My favorite astrological technique changes depending on what I'm using. I find perfections to be the most useful for helping people. It's very validating for them in their moment. I'm studying circumambulations and distributions right now, and it's fascinating.
Okay, let's stop right there. So, for those who don't know, where is that coming from?
Yeah, I am a primarily traditional and Hellenistic astrologer. So I'm going through, I wanted to know, how do you use all the timing techniques together? What order do you use them in? And I found a list in Rhetorius. And so I've been working with my mentor because I believe in constantly expanding your knowledge. I think astrology is a lifelong study. So I go through, I'm even learning ancient Greek right now to be able to get as close to the source as possible.
Understood. How do you feel about do we out your mentor?
Oh, absolutely. My mentor is Larry Arrington, delightful, wonderful human being. We share the same rising. We have some really good synastry, and now a lifelong friend for sure.
Yes, and I do know Larry, just for people who are listening know.
Yeah.
So, okay, and, we'll go to the second question here, but, I'm curious. Whenever you started astrology, we don't have to go to the timing, but what is a technique that you got into before, you were using before you switched up or grew into something else? So
I got started with Hellenistic astrology because, again, I was trying to get as close to the source of astrology as possible. And so the first timing technique outside of transits was zodiacal releasing because it was called Time Lord, and I'm a Doctor Who nerd.
Yeah. So am I. I'm a Tom Baker. I grew up with Tom Baker, Doctor Who.
I prefer David Tennant. I really loved the energy and the versatility. Yeah. But I can appreciate Tom Baker.
Well,
that's my mom's
who's
favorite.
the writer during the David Tennant and the guy who was there before?
Russell T. Davies, and he's taken over again.
Oh, he is?
Yeah,
because
he's back.
The beginning, those years before, after, it kind of fell off, but those years were great with the other actress who is his cohort.
Billie Piper.
Billie Piper, yeah. And I know her from another series, too. But they had great chemistry, and the writing was amazing.
Yeah, she was in, I forget what it's called. Penny Dreadful.
She's in Penny Dreadful. She did something else on British TV where she was a call girl.
Yeah,
ex-worker. She did really cool. She's a Libra. I think so.
I haven't actually looked at her chart. I've seen David's a lot.
Yeah, what's David?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. I'm a member of the Scottish Astrological Association because they let me do my first talk, and they gave me a lifelong membership. So we did this round-robin thing where we had to guess the chart, and I was able to guess it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for answering the first question.
Yeah.
Second question.
Cool.
What is your earliest memory connected to astrology?
My earliest memory connected to astrology is in 3rd grade when I found out Pluto was no longer going to be a planet. I petitioned so hard that when NASA actually decided to leave it go that first time, my teacher threw me a pizza party because I got the whole school involved, sent it to NASA, was so involved. I found out later Pluto's on my ascendant.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah. Passionately defending its place in power amongst the planets. Have you ever been to Flagstaff, Arizona?
I have.
Did you go to the Lowell Observatory?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, because that's where Pluto was discovered.
Yep.
I was there recently, earlier in the year, and just to see the story behind all that, and be the telescope and all that. For those who are listening, if you're ever going through Flagstaff, you're outside of Phoenix or close to Sedona or going to the Grand Canyon, stop by Flagstaff and go to the Lowell Observatory. It's incredible, Pluto. And I actually have I walked out of there with 2 Pluto t-shirts. One of them was like, Pluto is a planet.
Yes.
And for those listening, when you're in the town and stuff, it's like, that's everybody's thing. If you said it wasn't a planet, it's like blasphemy in that town. So
Yeah. Well, and, I say I'm a traditional astrologer. I do incorporate Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto into my practice, as a lot of us do.
Yeah. And that's a thing. There's some hardcores out there who don't, but I know secretly they're looking.
Yeah, I like to think of them as like the old gods, comparable to the Titans as compared to the gods.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I incorporate in my skits, which are stories of the transits. That's kind of how I think about them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, for those listening, when you're on TikTok, can you give quickly what you just said, what you meant? Yeah.
So on TikTok, I personify the planets in sort of a skit format. And for every transit that happens, I tell you the conversation as my interpretation in story form to make it more digestible. And then the moon will translate that as she does.
Yes. Okay, thank you for giving the extra explanation. And thank you for answering question number 2.
Yeah.
All right, we get to question 3 here. And what are you reading these days? It's not astrology.
That's not astrology. Well, I actually work a lot with fiction writing. I help people write books that are like emotionally healing and all that stuff. So currently, I'm reading the Wizard's Butler. It's like a cozy fiction thing. It's all right. I do a recap on my blog and on my own podcast every month of the books I'm reading, but the story I'm most immersed in right now is Tears of the Kingdom, Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and we're talking about a video game that just came out for the Switch, and for those who are hardcore video game players and Zelda freaks, like both of us,
yes,
we've been waiting.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting here because I asked you about a book, and I don't know when the change happened culturally, but I came up with the first Nintendo.
Me too.
And all that, and there's like gamers, but there was just this like, I don't know, we were still off to the side. And eventually the gaming world is huge. It's a $1 billion industry. But I think it doesn't get the credit that it deserves when it comes to talking about like stories.
Yeah.
Right. And in a sense, I know you're not going to spoil it for me right now because I haven't started playing it yet.
I wouldn't dare.
Yeah. But I mean, is that what it is for you? Like, it's like a book, like a story, like
Yeah, it's a, with a book, you can immerse yourself in the story that someone has written and you follow along with that storyline, which is magical. Especially when you're using it for healing, you can go through an experience you wouldn't have gone through before, and you almost get that by proxy. A video game draws you in almost even more, because you get the visuals to guide you along, but you're also immersed in the action.
Yes.
You are taking the action. And so that story feels like it's happening to you in an entirely different way.
Yeah.
And if it's beautiful and exciting and all of those things, it's a really great Neptunian way, or Saturn and Pisces kind of way.
Yeah,
of
definitely.
Just changing your world a little bit for a while.
Yeah, I think for those who don't game, you're like, oh, it's just a game, but what's going on is like teams of writers. They're writing this stuff. It's everything. It's like writing a book.
It's creative.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for answering the third question.
Yeah.
And where we've gone in the third question.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a little curveball with you, which I do in all this. It has to do with books and stuff.
Fantastic.
What's like an early thing, a book that when you're younger, another part of your life that transformed you?
Oh, man. I think it was just books in general transformed me, because they taught me a lot more than life experience did for where I was growing up. I have a very strong Saturn in my chart, so social life was not there as much for me. Books were, and so writing characters was very transformative for me. I think the Artemis Fowl books are probably my favorite, because they were the ones that came to life for me the most and got me thinking outside of boxes, which Saturn keeps you in the box sometimes. But they took me into other worlds.
Yeah.
And I realized, I don't have to be where I am. I can be anywhere.
Yeah. You're the vessel. It takes you somewhere else. Especially you mentioned something like if you were, I don't know, you're just more closed off or boundary-like, and then you're in your fantasy world and where you can go, and it's your own space and what's possible, So, well, thank you. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so connect at The Real KristaLyn on TikTok, Instagram, wherever. I love meeting people and engaging with people. And my website is KristaLyn A Vetovich.com. Spelled with a K, so that helps a little bit. And it's in all the links and stuff.
Yeah, and I put it in my show notes just so you know. By the way,
cool. The spelling will be there.
And I'm going to pipe in here and say that you're an author.
Yes, I am.
Yes, and I know your books are on Amazon, correct?
Yep, they're on Amazon. I have a Shifted series, which is the end of the world told from a spirit guide's perspective. It's their job to organize it the right way. So the frustration of what it's like to be the spirit guide, and it kind of makes you more cognizant of working in co-creation and cooperation with your own team of energies and awareness.
It's interesting you're saying this. When did you write those?
I started writing those, Shifted, the first in the series, I started writing in about 2015. My first traditionally published book was in 2012, right near the whole end of the world 2012 thing. But I've been writing since I was 13. I published my first book at 16 because that's where I lived.
Where's your Mercury?
Mercury is combust with the sun in my 7th house in Taurus.
Okay. And if I get this correct, we have Taurus, Gemini, and then we have a Cancer 9th house.
With Jupiter.
Yeah, that's where I was going. You see where I went there. Yeah. I also think it's interesting of what you wrote about. Did you know about diamonds before you did these books?
I grew up in a very traditional Christian household, but I was a medium, so I knew about influences.
Yeah, totally.
I definitely didn't call them diamonds or muses, because that would have been no.
Yeah, but like angels or certain saints or something like that. Or
I knew there was something with me. I think the creative process, you definitely are aware that it's not a just you thing.
Right, definitely. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast here at the NORWAC conference.
Yeah.
We're in a restaurant booth, and the restaurant part is closed, the quietest place we could find. But I met you. When did I meet you?
I volunteered for ESAR, and we talked a little bit before NORWAC last year.
Yeah.
And then we finally met in person at
ESAR, and then here you are here at NORWAC. And I met you at NORWAC here last year.
Yeah, we met at NORWAC last year.
Yeah.
Then I helped at ESAR, and now we're back.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I appreciate you, and I'm glad it's worked out, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
The feeling is absolutely mutual. Thank you so much.